Snap out of it. Stop thinking your vote doesn't matter and doesn't affect our community. This November, truth is, we need everyone to vote. Fill out your ballot early and return it before November 7th. Then text your family and friends that their vote matters and remind them to get up, get out, and be a voter. A message from the League of Women Voters of Snohomish County.
Welcome to the League of Women Voters of Snohomish County Forum for candidates for the City of Brier, County Position 5, and Council at Large. I'm Nadine Shanti, a member of the League. This forum is being live streamed to our League YouTube channel. To those in the virtual space, thank you for joining us. A recording of the forum will be available on this same YouTube channel for later viewing. First, let me provide some background on this position. Council members manage basic public services like water, sewer, fire, police, roads, and parks. They establish and enforce local laws, control how land can be used, and provide direction to the mayor or the city manager. They manage relationships with other governments, nonprofits, and businesses for the benefit of city residents. Candidates for Brier Council Position 5 are Kevin Davis and David Marley. Candidate for Council at Large is Daniel Allen. Kristen Bigoff is not joining us today. Welcome, candidates. It is the policy of the League to be nonpartisan. Therefore, we neither endorse nor oppose candidates or parties. The rules for participation in this forum were sent ahead of time to the candidates. I will pose the questions and I will clearly state the amount of time allowed for each answer. We are using a countdown timer that is visible to all candidates, and time limits on answers will be strictly enforced. I will change the starting order for each question, alternating candidates in the starting position to ensure a fair sequence. The order for the first question will be Daniel Allen, then Kevin Davis, and David Marley. Let's begin. The candidates will have 2 minutes for the first question, and I will start with Mr. Allen. What are the major issues you feel need to be addressed by this office? And please explain why you are focusing on these issues.
Sure, and thank you. I think that there are several challenges that our city and our neighbors are facing. One, due to the sprawling growth of surrounding cities, rising costs of cost of living, and the increased property taxes as well. The growth we see around Snohomish County allows us to rejoice in some potentially higher home values while posing challenges of increased taxes. The growth also increases our traffic, and it's also rising our local crime as well. Our neighbors are starting to feel pinched by the rising costs of living and the sprawl of the growth of the surrounding neighbors. We need to find a long-term solution. It's critical for the well-being of our neighbors and our community that we've worked hard to cultivate here in Brier. My priorities for Brier are to address the police department, and we have had some difficulties, as people might be aware. But ultimately, we also want to preserve our way of life here in Brier. Again, we've done a lot of work to be Brier, and then I also want to remove the potentially undue tax burdens on our potentially most vulnerable neighbors. I'm sorry.
Thank you. Mr. Davis, same question.
Hello, thanks for the question. Well, first I would say that we've got to, my major concerns, I've got a couple of them. One is to preserve Brier in the state that it is as its own independent city. We're kind of getting absorbed by other cities and development. It'd be nice to keep Brier somewhat the way it is, but we really need to look at our finances. I think that last cycle we went through with the vote into the RFA brought out some glaring issues within our internal city finances, the lack of. We also put quite the new tax burden on residents by voting into the RFA, excuse me. It increased additional taxes per resident approximately $700. And a lot of the funding was retained by the city of Brier for unknown projects. We need to see what's going on there, how our city finances are, and what we can afford to do and what not to do. And that includes maintaining our police department, making sure we have a long-term collective bargaining agreement in place to keep that stood up. We've had just far too much turnover and transition within that department. And I also say we've got to look at our public parks and infrastructure. The highlight of Brier, the crown jewel, was once Brier Park with beautiful ball fields and facilities, and it's degraded to a point to where it's unusable. The restrooms are blocked with porta potties. It's been that way for almost 9 months. The fields are mold pitted and unusable. We had to cancel Brier Night Out just recently due to infrastructure problems. So definitely a concern of mine. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Marley, same question.
I think the easiest issue to identify is our budget, because our city is small and almost exclusively single family only, with a small business zone. Most of our revenue comes from property taxes, and the city's share of property taxes can only increase by state law, can only increase 1% per year, which doesn't really come close to keeping up with inflation. So the city staff does a good job with working within our budgetary constraints, but it really is an ongoing battle. But aside from that, I think really the biggest issue, and the one that has the most potential to really change Brier, is legislation that's coming out of Olympia. Our state government, including some of our local representatives, have chosen to remove a substantial amount of planning authority from local governments and is pushing higher density housing into cities, including Brier. You only have to look just outside our borders, especially over in the unincorporated area, to see what that type of housing would look like and the impact that could have on Brier. And it isn't just the impact to our neighborhoods, but it's also the effect it would have on our public works. It would have take on greater responsibilities, our police services, which would be spread out across the larger population, and our fire service. So I think that's a little recognized, but a huge threat to the city of Brier.
Thank you. This next question will go to Kevin Davis, and I'd like the timer to put 90 seconds on the clock, please. That's how long we have to answer. Mr. Davis, what qualifications and experience make you a good choice to address these issues?
Well, I would say I've got a good combination of public and private service. As far as a career path, I've worked at the state level, agency level. I've worked for a large city here, and I also worked for the county in various leadership positions. I'm very familiar with the rulemaking process, codes, laws and regulations, and how to apply them, and also how to interpret them. I've also worked in the private sector in various trades and have a great grasp of what it takes to maintain city infrastructure. So, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Marley?
So I was appointed to the Brier Planning Commission in 2003, and I served as chair of the commission until about 2020, when I was appointed to the city council, and then shortly afterwards was reelected to that position. While on the council, I have been licensed to the Public Works Department, to the Planning Commission. I've served as mayor pro tem. Outside of the city, I was a member of my kids' school commission for 8 years. I served as president for 3 of those years. I've been involved in running charitable fundraisers. I volunteer really countless hours for a number of organizations, and really all of these various activities has given me some level of knowledge and insight that helps guide my analysis of the issues and my decisions as a council member.
Thank you. Mr. Allen, same question.
Well, I'll say I am an experienced leader, well positioned to harness the growth that is happening while preserving the Brier we know and love. I too was appointed to the Brier Parks Board a couple of years ago, and I have proudly served the community in these last few years. The Parks Board is a team that coordinates events, that brings families, neighbors, and friends together and creates opportunities for meeting new people within our community. Additionally, I'm an active member of Brier's own Brookview Church, and I helped lead a men's group for a few years. And I'm also involved in multiple outreach programs, including helping local families associated with Cedar Way Elementary, Vision House, and the summer soccer program. So when you're saying, what experiences do I have? I know that we're going over my qualifications right now, but I also know that I will work diligently and with the integrity to serve the city of Brier like I have in the past. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to allow 90 seconds again for this question, because you all have mentioned housing, and hopefully we can dive a little deeper. And I'd like to start with Mr. Marley. What measures, if any, would you support to keep housing options affordable in Brier?
Well, one way to reduce the price of new housing is to look at gas prices. This year, the state of Washington levied a tax on gas that raised prices almost 50 cents a gallon, and that in turn drives up the cost of really every other good that we consume, and including housing costs. And I don't think we can talk about housing affordability without recognizing policies that are put in place that interfere with people's ability to save the money that they work so hard to obtain. In terms of housing options, we don't have a lot of options within Brier. Brier, of course, is a single-family residence only city. But if we look at housing as a more regional issue and look beyond our boundaries, there are options. Of course, within Brier, we can have ADUs, and that helps a bit. But outside of Brier, there are options such as apartments, condominiums, various levels of affordability in our surrounding areas. And so I look at housing as more of a regional issue and one that has various solutions available to it.
Thank you. Mr. Allen? Same question.
Well, the housing affordability is a significant issue across our region, and Brier is not exempt from it in any way. Historically, the Brier housing policies have been specific to our community and our community needs. But with the new statewide laws to expand housing options, Brier is going to be one of the smaller cities in the area that's going to probably grow in the coming years. So historically, Brier has allowed second or accessory dwelling units for many years as part of our single family residential zoning. But with the new expansive state laws regarding the ADUs and the upzoning, Brier must work to adapt to new regulations within our limited city resources. Our city's primary revenue source is the property tax, which puts an undue burden on seniors and homeowners in our community who are already struggling to make ends meet. As I had mentioned earlier, higher home values are something we have in Brier. However, it also means higher property tax. I would like to work, to find a way to move with the considerations when drafting new state housing policies to ensure development can be sustainable and responsive to our community needs, and not just put out for us to interpret. Thank you.
Thank you. If we could leave the timer at 90 seconds, I would like to start with Mr. Davis. And this is regarding homelessness, which is a growing issue for many in our communities. As a council member, what solutions would you propose?
Thank you. Did you want me to answer the other question first?
Did I miss you?
It's okay.
I'm so sorry. Yes, please answer the first question.
Okay, so I guess back to the to support affordable housing options. I would start with as far as specific measures, there is a lot we can do in the city of Brier. Currently in the city, you're only allowed to build ADUs on a double lot. There's a lot of existing lot sizes that don't meet that qualifications where they're strictly prohibited by code. It's been that way for quite some time, and it's somewhat of a regressive code in my eyes. I would support a measure to allow owner occupied ADUs and additional housing units on a single lot, on any lot in Brier that's permitted at this point. We've got to create options for extended families, and I think that's one area where Brier could be a leader. Our housing is changing. We're looking at generational units rather than single family. You raise your kid, they move out. We're seeing a lot more of that, and I think the community could benefit from that. So, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Davis, would you like to answer the question on homelessness, and do I need to repeat the question?
Yeah, if you could repeat it, please. I'll go.
Okay. Homelessness is a growing issue for many of our communities. As a council member, what solutions would you propose?
Well, we've got to look at that. We've got to look at grants and funding to provide assistance to people that need it when they need it. I would say that there's regional resources within Snohomish County. We've got to figure out how to partner with them. A lot of that too is educating, our police and public works when they're out and about and they encounter somebody in crisis or in need, and how to address that. Probably build some programs within the city. I'd give kudos to the people that support Brier Helping Brier. What a phenomenal job they do within the community of helping people. There's a lot of us that are one paycheck away from being homeless. There's a lot of seniors that are, especially on fixed incomes, that are impacted by the recent rise in property taxes. And there's a lot that they do to help the community, and give them a plug since I've got an audience.
Thank you. Mr. Marley, same question.
So homelessness itself has not been a significant topic of conversation at our council meetings, aside from discussion about how nearby communities are affected. We do have policies and processes in place for if our police encounter homeless people and how to deal with that. Now, that said, homelessness, of course, is a regional problem, and Brier does have a stake in any proposed solutions. And I think what's important when we're looking at this issue is to really assess what approaches are successful and which ones struggle to make progress. And there have been some large organizations, I'm thinking particularly down in King County, that have significant funding and a lot of resources, and they struggle to make any headway in the homelessness issue. There are also some much smaller organizations, and I think one in particular that is getting a little bit of attention down in Seattle. The We Heart Seattle program is largely volunteer based, and they take a bit of a different approach to homelessness, but they appear to be making some really good headway, and especially given their size and limited funding. And so I just think that we need to ensure that any approach that we promote is based on models of proven success, and really to not waste the money that citizens have entrusted to us.
Thank you. Mr. Allen, same question.
Well, along with everybody else, I'm concerned about the impact of the rising cost of living and the burdens put on our seniors, families, and again, the vulnerable community members. I have worked to support direct service providers, including Vision House and local food banks, to bring awareness to our community of the resources available to those experiencing any level of housing insecurity. As a Brier City Council member, I will use my position to support similar programs with transitional housing that help break the cycle of homelessness. And I've seen it actually work well. But ultimately, safe housing, building and restoring relationships within our community, access to resources and services, and promoting accessible healthcare are all priorities of mine to ensure a safe, healthy city with great opportunities for all who want to live here. We just have to make sure that we have those kind of outreach programs available to help people who are kind of on that fence or maybe headed in that direction, or helping those who are already there. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to start this question with Mr. Marley, and if the timer could set this for 60 seconds, I'd appreciate it. Mr. Marley, all local jurisdictions are required to update their comprehensive plans in 2024. What changes or additions would you suggest?
Right, so there is a major comprehensive plan update in 2024, and there are 6 elements to the comprehensive plan. There's land use, housing, transportation, utilities, capital facilities, and parks and recreation. I suspect that our land use and housing elements will be most affected, especially given some of the recent legislation. As you're likely aware, one of the important parts of the comprehensive plan update is citizen input. And in the past, our citizens have been very clear that they like Brier the way that it is. And they acknowledge that growth happens and changes must result from growth. They would like to preserve the character of Brier that sets our city apart from surrounding areas. So really, the process starts with citizen input. I look forward to the public input on the comprehensive plan update and seeing if that sentiment remains the same today.
Thank you. Mr. Allen, same question.
I agree that with the comprehensive plans for 2024, most of my concern is, again, much like Mr. Marley, the growth within the community and the land usage. But again, to the point, the people of Brier love our city just the way it is. And we've worked hard to maintain the small town presence. And still, like each community around us, we continue to grow. And we have to find ways to make it work within the guidelines of what the state's presenting to us. It is imperative for our city to recognize how the growth impacts not just our neighbors, but we need to find a path forward to preserve our most treasured characteristics of Brier. I'm eager to review any and all proposed changes to the comprehensive plan that balance the benefits of the surrounding density growth with the appropriate remedies for any impact on our city. Thank you.
Mr. Davis, same question.
Yeah, thank you. Kind of on the same line, I think what the most significant impact is going to be housing and the changes that with House Bill 1110 and 1337 are going to have on the city of Brier. I've seen some other cities and towns in the state have taken a very proactive position on this as far as community engagement. I would support any and all efforts and means to engage a community. Going to a council meeting may not necessarily be the best forum to get opinion from the majority of our residents here in the city of Brier. So definitely engagement. I know you got till the end of 2024, and then there's a 6-month after beyond that to actually comply with the regulation, and it may be pushed out till mid 2025. I'd like to see the city be a little more proactive on that stance and move forward with the changes we're going to have to make. Thank you.
Thank you. 60 seconds for this question, and I'd like to start with Mr. Allen. What actions, if any, would you propose to respond to our changing climate? You're muted, Mr. Allen.
Yeah, I had to take myself off mute. Well, as a small municipality, as a small city, our powers to affect a lot of climate change, I think, might be limited. However, we still feel the impacts of climate change and the environmental harm. Washington State launched a campaign in April of this year to plant 2.6 million trees. They received $6 million in federal funding for the urban forestry efforts. I'd like to utilize the same kind of federal and state programs to bolster our city's resilience to climate change and do our part to preserve the local habitats as well. Obviously, we're seeing more deer, more coyotes, more bobcats than we've ever seen in our city. And the more we develop, the greater the tree cover we strip away from the local wildlife where they live. We need to create measures for any future development to avoid, minimize, or compensate for any of the adverse effects and environmental impacts resulting from their projects. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Davis, your thoughts?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, there's quite a bit we can do. I think we need to look at our tree preservation and canopy codes and take a hard look at that and make some changes. There's been some recent developments that, because of the existing regulations, have been approved, and essentially clear cutting of these lots and the impact it has on the neighbors who've been here forever and ever with trees falling on their houses and properties. It's pretty disturbing. I would take a hard look at that, make some changes right away. I know Valerie has been pretty active working on that too, and a promoter. I would also look at areas where right-of-way has been fenced and blocked throughout Brier. There's a 230 kV line that it would be great to open up access to public and even critters for transit through the city of Brier. That spans from Bothell to Mount Lake Terrace, that corridor. That should be open and accessible to all, including animals and wildlife. We need to look at that. So thank you.
And gentlemen, this is our final question. And again, a minute to answer this. Oops, I did it again. Mr. Marley.
Thank you.
Question.
Well, like Mr. Allen said, for the most part, climate-related policy is really driven at a state level, and Brier adjusts its code to address those changes in state law, particularly with our code around land use. I do think that Brier does a good job in balancing the need to allow development in the housing that we've been talking about, and at the same time trying to retain trees. And while we can't retain all trees, we do strive for tree replacement. And by the way, we encourage tree planting by offering our residents $50 vouchers towards the purchase of trees. And I encourage people to look into that program. And maybe another thing that we can do, we look at Brier, but again, look outside our borders at recent housing developments and what they have done to the trees. They have wiped them clear, whereas we try to preserve them. I think we should push back on some of the county and encourage surrounding communities to preserve trees when they're bringing in new development.
Thank you. We'll start with Mr. Davis on our final question. Again, 1 minute. Please tell us something about your life experience that might surprise or intrigue voters.
Boy, life experience. Well, I don't really like bananas. That's another one of these inside jokes, but no, I would, okay, I'll give it up. So I would say one thing some people may not know about me is, when I was a kid growing up here in this area, I used to participate in this unicycle club. And I think I completed the Torchlight Parade in the early 80s on a 16-inch unicycle. So that's one thing nobody knows about me, but a select few. But anyway, that's about it. But happy to be here, and thank you.
Well, Mr. Davis, now everybody knows about it.
Yeah, they know about the bananas.
Okay. Mr. Marley, your thoughts, please.
Well, I can't ride a unicycle, but when I was about 10 years old, I was growing up in South Seattle. We lived across the street from a large undeveloped piece of property. And a developer came in, and this was a single family resident neighborhood, and they wanted to put in 580 units of condominiums. And the people got together and they fought and fought. We went down to City Hall. I made trips down there as a kid and met Charlie Royer and Sam Smith and Norm Rice and all these people, and fought hard. And eventually we were able to reach a compromise where they put in 27 houses and preserved the rest of the property, which turned into what you know as Kubota Gardens, which is a great Japanese park. And it just taught me the benefit of reaching out to those in the government and voicing your concerns.
Thank you. And finally, Mr. Allen.
Again, I have no unicycle experience whatsoever, so you can put that in there as well. But I will say I've always tried to be involved with communities, with neighbors and everything else like that. And I got into softball coaching for my girls. I have two young daughters, and I coach them in softball. And I worked full time, but I'd always hang out on the fence for their coach and say, well, what you could be doing is this, and what you can be doing is this. And she said, what you could be doing is this. And I kind of went, oh, Okay, and so that's how I got into coaching, and it was just always super rewarding to work with the kids. We, having them grow up in front of you and watching their skills develop. But it's also kind of the way that I do things too. Is um, to be involved. Sometimes all you have to do is start a conversation, and that's what I love about Prior is everybody's willing to talk. I just want people willing to talk about the good things about Brier and how we can keep the good things in Brier.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
The League thanks these candidates for joining us and for running for office. A recording of this forum and others will be available on the League of Women Voters of Snohomish County website and YouTube channel. Find links at lwvsnoho.org. That's lwvsnoho.org. We encourage you to explore additional information about these and all candidates. The Snohomish County voter pamphlet will be mailed starting October 18th. Vote411.org, sponsored by the League, is another good source of information. Ballots will be mailed starting October 18th, and Election Day is November 7th. Please be a voter. Thank you to our League Candidate Forum team, and special thanks to Dave Moon and the Salton School students at TurkPride.tv who made this live stream possible. And of course, thank you all for joining us. This concludes our candidate forum.